guys, and welcome back to Denver Wellness Digest. As always, my name is Chris Perez, and in the studio today joining us, we've got Melanie Cross, NP, in another walk down memory lane. She and I worked briefly together in the medical ICU, and then she went on to nurse practitioner school and is now an independent wellness practitioner. And so she was kind enough to come by and talk to us about that today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here. I love everything that you're doing here. This is fantastic.
Oh, it's mutual. Like that, I was so excited to have you come and interview today. So tell me a little bit about your journey from the ICU to NP onto wellness.
So as Chris mentioned, we used to work together in the ICU, and then I knew that I was going to go on to graduate school and went to NP school, and while in NP school I was like, I need to broaden my scope. I'm going to go work in the emergency department. While working in the emergency department as a nurse during NP school, I was like, how do we get people from having to come to the emergency department? How do we get people from having to go to the ICU? Primary care. This is it. This is where all the prevention happens. So after finishing school, went into primary care and worked in family medicine at a fantastic facility, wonderful people, wonderful providers, wonderful patients, and after I don't even know how many years it took, maybe not even a year, but I was like, this isn't, people aren't getting better. This isn't prevention. This is Band-Aids. This is just maybe a different type of Band-Aid than the emergency department, but this is still a Band-Aid. And, still stayed, and I was like, maybe I'm just not looking at things, the right way, and there's got to be a different way to do this, because how is this the answer for people for medical care? How is this how their prevention happens? Well, turns out it isn't.
So Melanie, you worked in medicine for 20 years. You worked in primary care. How long is a visit?
Visits where I worked were 15 minutes. We were never able to get really into why the patient was there and what they really needed help with. I wasn't able to provide the help they needed. So say a patient has high blood pressure and they're coming in for, to get a refill on their blood pressure medication. Why do they have high blood pressure? Like, let's dig into that. 15 minutes doesn't allow you to do that. Is it because they have anxiety? Well, why do they have anxiety? Like, let's dig into that further. Are these nutritional things? Are these stress? Are these, other environmental factors playing parts? Of course that's in there, but does conventional, traditional medicine have a way of allowing that to happen? No, absolutely not. And it was just really disheartening, because I knew what the patient needed, and I wasn't able to give it to them.
Yeah, there's a term for that, cognitive dissonance, and it's something that I've been reading about in the burnout literature that I've been reading, and it's a huge problem for healthcare providers that are as passionate, and most healthcare providers are super passionate, and so when they're not able to provide the help that they know would truly help people, it kind of hurts your soul.
It does hurt your soul, and I teach online for a residency program for new graduate NPs and PAs, and new graduates are feeling this right out of the gate. And through all of that, I was about 38 years old, and just started having, I wasn't sleeping at all. Like, I would wake up for like nothing in the middle of the night at like 2 a.m, and then I'd be like, okay, if I fall asleep now, I can still get, that negotiation. Didn't have any energy at all because I'm not sleeping. I had this really bad brain fog. I started feeling like kind of anxious and depressed, which were totally new symptoms for me. My kids were 5 and 7 at the time, and I just kind of was, blaming my symptoms on like my sleep. I have kids, I have to keep that ear open, and this is just part of the deal of having kids, working. And at the time we were having some struggles with one of our children, and was working in a different nurse practitioner position that was highly stressful. And I was like, all right, once we get things settled with our kids, once things like calm down at work, then then I'll take care of me.
Right.
Then I'll get to my stuff. And suddenly I was realizing that time was never going to come. I realized that I had totally become my dad. My dad died at 34.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he had Wolff-Parkinson-White syndrome. Which 34 in rural Nebraska, like...
Who's going to treat that?
Yeah, I mean, I think ablations were just coming out,
right.
maybe, but it wasn't in our small town, and just kind of sucked it up and went on with life, and then it didn't, he cardiac arrested, and I realized when I was 38, I was like, oh my gosh, I know how my dad's story ended when he ignored his health, when he didn't acknowledge what was going on. I don't want that to be my story.
Yeah.
And so I I'm like, okay, gotta do something about this. I knew conventional medicine wouldn't provide the solution because I had worked there for 20 years. And I knew what my story would be. I would do a TSH and tell me everything looks normal, you're fine, great news, and then hand me my antidepressant and send me on my way.
Yeah.
And I was like, this cannot be the only option. This can't be the solution. And I've always been a supporter of cannabis and plant medicine, and I was like, I'm going to figure this out. So I became my own client, and I started with cannabis for sleep. Within like a week or so, using some cannabis, a tincture I used at night, I was sleeping like solidly.
Wow.
And I was like, whoa, this is great. As we were talking before, like just getting me over that hump.
Yeah.
I started digging into my root cause of why I wasn't sleeping. Why was I anxious? Why was I depressed? Why was I had this brain fog, no energy? I was super bloated at the time too. And I had like holding on to baby weight, they were 5 and 7. That's not...
it's still okay to say. Yeah, I was holding on to baby weight. And I'm going to guess you were living on the steady diet of most healthcare providers, which is like caffeine, sugar, and whatever like carby snacks you can grab quickly.
Right. I would try, I did all the cleanses, I did all the diets, I did all the like fitness programs. I tried everything. And then I would try it for those like 30 days, those 21 days, and then I just go back to my old ways.
Yeah.
So that's once I figured out my own stuff and saw how better I got, and then subsequently the exchange with my children too and my family, I was like, it's not just me. It's not just me who this is affecting by like sucking it up and putting my health last.
Yeah. And
supposedly, making that unselfish decision and putting my family and career first. It's totally selfish.
So Melanie, this whole idea is great. I love functional plant medicine. I love the concept. Tell me what your process looks like.
So once I have a conversation with someone to find out like what they need help with, if I'm the person to help them, then we move on to a case review.
Okay.
And in the case review, we figure out, like, we dive deep into your story, what's your history, where your symptoms that you've had, where you are now, and where you want to go. And from there, I start making connections on what your root cause might be on getting you to where you want to go, and we come up with a completely tailored, customized plan for you, for your unique self and your unique root cause, and that starts with some lab work that we dive into. A lot of times we do a stool test and do food sensitivity testing and nutritional testing, sometimes hormone testing with folks, and then my work together is one-on-one to get you from crappy to happy.
I love that, from crappy to happy. Okay, so you mentioned a stool sample, and is that because you want to evaluate gut health?
Yep, absolutely. Everything begins in the gut. Regardless of where your symptoms might lie outside of your body, we got to really look at your gut. And so looking at your microbiome, like what bacteria, how it's balanced in your gut. There's, I'm sure, a term you're familiar with, dysbiosis. Mm-hmm. And so when things are out of balance, like out of whack in the gut, like it's out of whack everywhere. So finding out where that balance is and how we can get things into more alignment, and then also like how are you absorbing food? How are you digesting food? Because like vitamins, minerals, your body doesn't make those. You got to take them in, and if your gut isn't working, you're not necessarily getting what you need from the food. The food may not have exactly what you need in it anyway, but what little it does, you're not maybe even absorbing it and digesting that food well. So we look at that, and leaky gut, I'm sure very familiar with that.
So Melanie, tell me about one of your favorite success stories from your functional plant medicine program.
There have been, it's so awesome because there are so many. like I said, it's so nice for people to actually get better. Recently I started working with someone who has a long history of GI issues, has Crohn's, and has suffered with other things along the way, and sleep being a major one. And diving in with their sleep and looking at some environmental and getting sleep hygiene on track and working with some stress, they were able to, and we incorporated cannabis, and they were able to sleep within like that first week or so of working together, when they would go weeks where they were like, I slept 2 hours last night, I slept 3 hours the next night. And that has been so incredible, and we're just now getting their lab results back. So this was just like some foundational things we could implement without even, like I was saying, like the lab piece is one piece.
Yeah.
But looking at, big picture, some foundational lifestyle changes, and one I think a really good thing about sleep hygiene is looking at the ways we're causing our body to not sleep. And light is a huge one. Getting off our screens, especially at night, even if we have them like set on the night mode, and even if we have the glasses, I mean, I am just as guilty about this. But trying to getting the screens out of your nighttime is huge. And I think light during the day is another thing to set your circadian rhythms at night. So I like to tell patients to first thing in the morning, if you can get outside and get some fresh air and get some sunshine, like fire up those mitochondria in your eyeballs, without sunscreen on, just for like a few minutes, your circadian rhythms start to set for the day. And at nighttime, around dusk, if you can also, it's also good if you can get a walk in during the middle of the day.
Yeah.
But at dusk, if you can go out again at night, when the sky's changing a little bit, that's saying to your body, okay, it's starting to become night, the blue sky's going away, your cortisol levels start to go down with that, and your melatonin levels start to rise. Important to have these things going on for deep restorative sleep.
That's fantastic. And this is something that I think everybody that's working from home right now really needs to take to heart and try and integrate into their lives. Go out in the morning, get some sun. Maybe I hadn't been aware of this dusk idea, but it makes a ton of sense. Like, it totally falls in line with what I would expect. I'm going to start doing that.
Yeah. And it is just these like little things that you can change that over time make huge impacts. That's what I like to do with my clients. It's just like baby steps.
Yeah.
Let's figure out what your blocks are. Let's get rid of those. Let's do more of what's helping you, and let's prioritize an environment for healing.
Oh my gosh, we so share that exact thought process. Baby steps. Let's find out what's working well for you. Add a little bit more of that, and maybe try to decrease things that aren't or are hurting you.
Absolutely.
Well, Melanie, thank you so much for coming on today. We'll have a link for Crossable Health below. I am going to actually recommend your program to a very good friend of mine who I know is struggling with gut health and sleep issues. And I hope to have you back again in the future.
I'd love to be back. Thank you so much. And thank you for what you're doing. This is incredible.
You too. Yeah.
This is awesome.
I'm so glad we're both working to really change people's lives on a different path.
Right, and we're doing things that we love.
Yes.
Awesome.